You are listening to One Nation Under Crime, a historical, chronological, true crime podcast. Each week, we go through our nation's history and discuss cases from each year, starting in 1800. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Leah.
Boy, do we have a topic this week.
It frightens me when she gets this look in her eyes, guys. She has this smirky grin on her face. So I don't know what's coming.
It's like the Grinch, but make it Halloween.
I'm a little frightened because I don't know what's coming up until we start recording.
And even with the topic name of this episode,
which I don't know,
no one will expect what's coming. So all of you are in suspense.
I only have the dog and cats to comfort me.
There you go. And
they're no help right now.
Yeah, none. So we are to episode 71. We're just trucking right along. How is everybody's October going? I'll give you a moment. Is it good? Have you gone to the pumpkin patch? Have you done spooky things? Are you watching Travel Channel? As we discussed last week, 'tis the reason for the season, Halloween. Only Halloween. So.
Oh, and I have a helpful hint.
Yes.
This is what my husband does. I don't watch spooky movies because I don't have time for that. I don't enjoy them. I have anxiety medication already. When he watches a spooky movie, he will cleanse his palate with a Disney movie before going to bed.
I think that's fair. Also, The Office is a good one. Always. So yeah, always a good one. I don't know. It depends on which one it is. There's some that I don't have to watch anything before. Like this, like Scream, like the first Scream.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched that. Like those aren't really.
I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, those are just kind of suspenseful. Like I
love a suspenseful movie.
Scary,
I don't want a jump scare movie.
No.
Now, one scary movie that I do like is called 13 Ghosts. If you know, you know. Also, Matthew Lillard, who is Shaggy.
Okay.
Also in Scream. Anyways, yes, very good movie. It's about a glass house. Anyways, if you know, you know, I was obsessed with that movie for quite a long time.
I mean, and I like The Sixth Sense, like that. Yeah. Those kinds of movies.
Did you ever watch Signs with the aliens and Mel Gibson?
Yes, and I liked that one.
I didn't like it. It took me years to watch that movie because it freaked. Aliens scare me.
I'm not a space.
No, we've discussed
fan.
this. Neither one of us are.
But now it's not my favorite. Like it's not one that I'll rewatch. But I don't like horror movies or devil, demon, creepy. I don't like those. Or
you said a word that's going to encompass part of our episode this week. So I'm excited.
And I don't like the Annabelle.
I don't like those.
And when the little cherubs come to life and stuff. So creepy.
My child's father really likes scary movies.
I do not.
For reference, my boyfriend is not my child's father. Just
correct.
Making sure people are so. He really likes scary movies, and I remember a while back, he wanted me to watch a scary movie, and I was like, okay, I don't know what the scary movie is, but I'll watch it. Never again in my life it was terrifying, and I don't like I'll watch something I like Scream. I like campy. Yeah, early 2000s. If Clue, Clue, love Clue. Flames on the side of my face. Anyways, love Clue, but love Tim Curry. I can't. But
I'm not like a Friday the 13th.
If Clue,
Saw,
Clue, if Clueless, Clueless time period, but horror movie. I'm for it. I really like that period where did you know the only reason Drew Barrymore agreed to be in Scream was if she were the first one killed? She wanted it to be like a bait and switch, and she wanted people to think she was going to be in the whole movie, but she wanted to be killed off first.
I did.
It was and it's funny that she's the main. Anyways, I think it's hilarious.
I
But
did do that.
Scream is I like Scream.
Yeah.
I always have. I Know What You Did Last Summer because it's Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Well, and it's not creepy, bloody, gory. Just,
there's something about that. And there's I've told my boyfriend this, there is a haze over all 90s movies. If you watch a 90s movie, there's this haze, and I'm sure it was just that film wasn't as great, but there's a difference between a 70s and an 80s movie and 90s. There's this weird haze over these movies that there's something really nostalgic about them. And I think that's why I really love 90s movies and late 80s to 90s and early 2000s. There's this weird haze over them that, oh my gosh, I don't know why.
Blonde?
It's so good. Legally Blonde, always. But I absolutely love it. But yeah, Scream, those kinds, love them.
Those are fun.
I will watch them.
Those aren't scary. They're
suspenseful.
Campy,
It's
a little
campy.
suspenseful.
Oh, and the movie that my child's father wanted me to watch was Insidious. I still will have nightmares about that movie. It is terrifying because it involves the dream world, which also gets me.
No.
And I don't. And if I'm getting the movie wrong, you know which one I'm talking about. I am 90% sure that's what it is, because there were multiple movies of it, but yeah, it involved the dream world and dreams. I don't know if I've talked about it on here. I vividly dream, and I mean every night. I'm convinced that's why I wake up tired, is because I have very vivid dreams all night long. My brain does not go to sleep at all. And so it got me good. Yeah. I was not.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of those. When I have such an active imagination as well.
Yours is the imagination part. I can have an active imagination, but I don't. But mine isn't because of that.
So, but I can imagine. I love to read, and part of the reading is I can escape there, and so
I can too.
With the movie thing, I can imagine being there, and that's why I don't like space movies, and I don't like being under the sea, I don't like those kinds of U571. Watched it once, never again.
There's certain things that I just can't, and there's certain things too. I don't
put myself in the situation.
I don't like dystopian places either. They creep me out.
I put myself in the place.
Although I
go there.
Stargate. Watched that. My boyfriend introduced me to that movie as well. It was very good. Stargate Atlantis. Anyways, it was very good. Yeah. I liked that movie. But there's something about weird dystopian places that put me on it. It took me a long time to fully watch The Village by M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh yeah.
But now that I've seen it, oh my God.
Once you see
such a good movie. You have to see the whole thing.
Yes.
But I would always stop. I couldn't, when they were in the watchtowers.
It was too much.
It was it got to be 30 minutes in. That was always when I would turn it off. I was like, I can't do this. I can't watch anymore. It took me until I was probably 17, 18 to finally finish the movie. And when I finished it, I was like, this is amazing.
Yes. Well, because it's him, you have to watch it till the end.
Yes.
Because it's
his
him.
movies are so good.
By the way, he was my star sighting when I went to New York. Walked past him in Central Park.
I mean, he's so good at what he does. It's just,
when it's him, you have to watch.
Which we're going to talk more about movies in a little bit.
Okay. Sorry.
So we've got to get.
Didn't mean to get off on a tangent. Just, I thought it was funny. Michael cleanses his palate.
That is pretty funny.
With a Disney movie.
Our sources for this week: Murder by Gaslight, and
I love how you just spit it out.
I know. The Illuminati.
Illuminati?
Yeah, like Illuminati, but nerdy.
I gotcha.
And so this was really hard to find information on because this is not well known. And I love when I find something that's not well known, that's very interesting. So the title of the article for the Illuminati is "You Only Live Twice."
Oh my.
So I'm excited. Our births for 1855, February 4th, we have George Cope. He was a painter who specialized in landscapes and still lifes. His works are held in the permanent collections of the Art Institute in Chicago and the Brandywine River Museum of Art. He was an Aquarius. August 4th, speaking of films, Jay Hunt was born. He was a film director and an actor, and he directed nearly 70 films between 1911 and 1919.
Wow.
8 years, 70 films.
Wow.
He's a Leo. October 21st. It's my mom's birthday. Howard Hyde Russell was born. He was a lawyer and clergyman and founder of the Anti-Saloon League, which is now known as the American Council on Addiction and Alcohol Problems.
Huh.
So I thought that was very interesting. It started as the Anti-Saloon League, which honestly, better name. But I get the reason for the change, but a better name. He's a Libra. October 24th, James S. Sherman was born. He was the 27th Vice President of the United States. He's a Scorpio. And December 10th.
I know somebody born that day.
I know
two somebody's born that day.
Mm-hmm. I know someone born the day after.
Mm-hmm.
August Vincent Theodore Spies was born.
That is a name.
It is. He was an upholsterer, radical labor activist, and newspaper editor, remembered as one of the anarchists in Chicago who were found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder following a bomb attack on police in an event remembered as the Haymarket Affair. He was a Sagittarius. We will eventually cover that. So that is why he is not our person of interest for this week. Our person of interest for this week actually died in 1855. So we're going to get into him. His name is John B. Gory. He was born in the West Indies to Scottish parents on October 3rd of 1803, making him a Libra. His family moved to South Carolina when he was young, and that is where he spent all of his childhood. He went on to receive his medical education at the College of Physicians and Surgeons of the Western District of New York. And at the age of 30, Gory made his way to the port city of, y'all know how I love words, Apalachicola.
Oh, I've been there.
It's a nice place, which is on the Florida coast, as well as being a resident physician at 2 hospitals, just being, an overachiever. Gory was active in the community as well. At various times, he served as a council member, postmaster, president of the Bank of Pensacola's Apalachicola branch, secretary of his Masonic Lodge, and one of the founding members of Trinity Episcopal Church.
He was very busy.
Even more busy than that, because much like Walter Reed, who was born just 4 years before where we are now, Gory's medical research focused on the study of tropical diseases, namely yellow fever. At the time, the common thought was that it was caused by bad air, which gave it the name malaria. As we know from discussing malaria before, the known cause and prevention of malaria wouldn't be fully found for another 45 years by Walter Reed and the other group that he worked with. So the only viable explanation for Gory was to make good air, and that the swamps in the area needed to be drained. To make this good air, his thought was to cool the rooms of those who were sick. In order to do this, he had an ice basin suspended from the ceiling, with the theory that since cool air is heavier, it would flow down across the patients and through an opening near the door. So it would kind of work like a vacuum where it would pull the air down and then pull it out through the room so that it would cool them off.
That's logical.
But there had to be an easier way to get ice to make this happen. Ice was still being transported by boat from the northern lakes. Gory needed artificial ice, and that's just what he created in 1844. After 1845, Gory gave up his medical practice to pursue refrigeration products. By 1850, he was able to routinely produce ice the size of bricks. On May 6th of 1851, Gory was patented patent number 8080 for making a machine to make ice. The original model of this machine and the scientific articles he wrote are at the Smithsonian Institution. Several years before, in 1835, patents for, quote, apparatus and means for producing ice and in cooling fluids had been granted in England and Scotland to an American-born inventor named Jacob Perkins, who is actually known as the father of refrigeration. And at this time, Gory was pretty poor, so he tried to raise money to manufacture his machine so that ice could be made on a large scale. But the venture failed when his partner died. Humiliated by the criticism, financially ruined, and his health really off the deep end, Gory died in seclusion on June 29th of 1855. He is buried in Magnolia Cemetery. Later, another version of Gory's cooling system was used when President James A. Garfield was dying in 1881. Naval engineers built a box filled with cloths that had been soaked in melted ice water. Then, by allowing hot air to blow on the cloths, it decreased the room temperature by 20 degrees. The problem with this method was essentially the same problem that Gory had. It required an enormous amount of ice to keep the room continuously cooled. Yet, it was an important event in the history of air conditioning. It proved that Dr. Gory had the right idea, but he was only able to not capitalize on it.
Well, that's sad.
Even though he was not able to capitalize on it, he did leave his mark on history and is commemorated in several ways. In Apalachicola, Gory Square is named in his honor. The square contains his gravesite, a monument, and the John Gory State Museum. The John Gory Bridge spans across the Apalachicola Bay, connecting Apalachicola with East Point. The World War II Liberty ship, the SS John Gory, was named in his honor. And the John Gory Award is given each year to a graduate of the University of Florida College of Medicine, believed to be the, quote, best all-around student showing promise of becoming a practitioner of the highest type.
Well.
And last but not least, and certainly the most important, the John Gory Dog Park at Riverside Park in Jacksonville, Florida, opened in the summer of 2016.
I love it.
So, yeah, he was the first one to actually come up with the entire idea of how to actually make ice. And then he was trying to invent basically air conditioning,
which we really appreciate here in the South.
Exactly. And so that was the entire part of it, was that he was trying to do that.
Ladies ought not glisten.
Oh, gosh. And let me tell you, the swamp in Florida, ooh, that's a humid place. It's not fun. So on to our case for this week. December 23rd of 1855. This is a name. Justus. Justus. Justus.
I taught a child who had that name spelled just like that.
Interesting. Justus Mathews didn't arrive back home after going to a Wakemanite prayer meeting. The next morning, he was found by his son dead on the floor of Samuel Sly's home.
Samuel Sly is a name.
Sly, isn't it? All right. I'm going to throw out a few things, and you tell me what all they have in common.
Oh, I like these games.
I'm going to put a list of them out. You have to wait till I'm done with the list. Okay? Are you ready?
Ready.
Nexium, Heaven's Gate, People's Temple, the Family, the Rajneesh Movement, the Branch Davidians, and the Manson family.
Cults.
I said, fingers crossed that Leah says cults.
Should I have said what are cults?
No, I'll allow it. I'll allow the answer.
Okay.
The term cult has several definitions, and we are going to talk about our first cult this week. I'm so excited. So the different definitions of a cult are several things, as I said. A system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object. A relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister, or a misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing. So if we think of cults by definition, there are a lot of things that can kind of like fall into that category. And we'll kind of talk about in a little bit why there are some kind of difficult things that come along with cults. Mm-hmm. Because by the very first definition, a system of religious devotion directed towards a particular figure or object, which is why a lot of people will combine certain things as a cult. We are not getting into that, obviously.
No.
But just to say, we talked about some questionable phrases before and agreed not to shock anyone that Leah could have been a lady of the night. She could have been described as a lady of the night for using her feminine wiles towards her husband. So, we've discussed
Which is hilarious.
We have discussed how technically, by definition,
he would totally wholeheartedly disagree with you.
I'm saying we could agree based on definitions of things that some people or some things can be termed something just by their definition. So in saying that, if you don't know what I'm saying, a lot of people will call church a cult. Because by definition, technically, yes, that's not what we're talking about this week. We are talking about just cults. To kind of talk about like a misplaced or excessive admiration on a particular person or thing. I had to kind of, do what I do. And there's certain things out there. We'll call them cult classics. So they're cult classic movies.
Yes.
That fly just below the radar at the time that they came out, but are adored, considered revolutionary, or are simply ironically enjoyed. Some of those include, are you ready?
I'm so ready.
A Clockwork Orange. Have you ever seen it?
I've not.
Don't. I made it through half. That was one movie that it's a Stanley Kubrick movie, which if anybody knows, like that's red flag number one. He also made Eyes Wide Shut. But anyways,
that's all I needed to know.
Yeah. Well, so A Clockwork Orange is truly if your acid trip was on an acid trip.
Okay.
And then took mushrooms.
Okay.
And then thought, I could probably make a movie.
I've heard of this, but never watched it.
And it included someone keeping a snake under their bed.
Oh, no.
It's pretty bad. I made it through maybe half of it. And then I looked at my boyfriend and I was like, I can't do this. Like, and there's very few times that I've watched Waterworld. Okay.
Oh,
there are very few things that I have to just look at him and go, I can't do this. And A Clockwork Orange has been possibly the only movie that has happened with. Some other cult classic movies are Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Excellent. Say that every time.
The Blair Witch Project.
Ugh.
Dazed and Confused. All right. It's such a creepy phrase when he goes, that's the beautiful thing about it, boys. We just keep getting older, but they keep staying young. And I'm like, that's gross. The Boondock Saints. The Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, yeah.
Pulp Fiction, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Clue. Such a good.
I haven't seen it.
You will find it funny.
Oh, I'm sure.
It is. It's one of those that people love it or hate it. It's a lot like the next one that we're going to talk about, but people either love it or hate it. And a lot of people don't like it because of the ending, because it is Clue. Like it is the game of Clue. And so at the end, they go through what all the possible possibilities are. But each time it's Tim Curry.
Who I love, so I'm sure I will. It's just I just haven't.
He goes through, so it's like him running around the house explaining how this person could do it, and he's like, and then we'll go back, and they have to go all the way back to the room that they were in before.
I do love him.
So it is funny, and that's where like flames on the side of my face, like it is.
I'm sure I will love it.
So good. You have to watch it.
I need to.
You would really enjoy it. It's funny, and it's one of those that we like. That's quick wit. That like if you're not paying attention, you could miss it. But it's funny. Which then brings us to the next one that, as I said, people will either love or hate it. Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
She turned me into a newt.
You can't expect to wield supreme power just because some watery tot threw a sword at you.
She's a witch!
Help! I'm being repressed.
I'm not quite dead yet. Such a good one.
Are you saying pigeon dropped coconuts?
Are you suggesting coconuts migrate?
Coconuts?
So
it is. Actually, it was very, my boyfriend has very odd ways of complimenting me sometimes. And he goes, I told someone the other day, it's very rare to find someone who can watch Monty Python and genuinely laugh. I love when it would like God pops up and he's like, oh, enough of that. It's always, I'm not worthy. And but we were watching, I told you about Life of Brian, and we were watching Life of Brian the other day, and I was cracking up, and he was like, I'm so glad you find Monty Python funny. And I was like, how can you not find this funny? Like, it's hilarious. Yes. But yeah, just because some watery top threw a sword at you, you wield supreme power. Oh, gosh.
You know what's not on your list that should be?
What?
The Princess Bride.
It was one that was on the list. So was Napoleon Dynamite.
I didn't like Napoleon Dynamite.
That's what we talked about. We talked about previous episode, Dahmer. When he popped up on the screen, he looks like Napoleon's brother. And we were like, my boyfriend goes, why didn't they just cast him? He could have done it perfectly. It's like, I mean, I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious. So, yeah, Princess Bride, though, definitely one of them. There was a big, long list of them, and some of them I was like, how? But, yeah, so those are cult classics. Yeah, Clue. I can't believe you haven't watched Clue. My boyfriend loves Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which is about the famous writer Hunter S. Thompson, and Johnny Depp plays him in that movie. But speaking of cult classics, my boyfriend made me watch Deliverance last night, and I could have gone. Do you remember that full movie? No. That is the answer, because I'm telling you.
I didn't watch the full movie.
Be glad.
Oh, yeah.
I was
like, I'm done.
As I'm watching it, I went, oh, no.
Oh, yeah, I was done. I couldn't watch it.
No. And he goes, well, yeah, you're going to hear a lot of, like, you're going to understand, like, where some of these phrases come from. And I'm like, I get it. No.
Thank you.
This is awful.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know.
To which, though, when we were watching it, that's what made me reminded me of it. John Voight in that movie looks just like Johnny Depp playing Hunter S. Thompson in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And I was like, why did they not just get John Voight to play him?
Now, when it is, because I tried to watch it a few years back. I tried to watch it, and
well, it's on Netflix, so
yeah, and
avoid it.
Well, I didn't get very far in it, but seeing those guys so young, it was
so young.
Yes, and you're like, oh my gosh, because you know them all.
Like I know consciously John Voight is Angelina Jolie's father. I could never see it until the movie started and I went, oh.
Isn't it funny when you see him younger? You're like,
I was like, oh, they have like the same eye, eye cheekbone area.
You totally see it when he's younger.
Oh my gosh, so crazy. And
young Burt Reynolds, you're like, I see all the fuzz.
No, I did not.
Oh,
I didn't see it. No, not even slightly.
Too hairy?
No, just too many other things that were going on in that movie that I really just looked at my boyfriend and said, you really thought this was a good idea to show me? Really? I will not. If anyone is listening and thinking, she must be talking about, yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't care to discuss it. I really wish I would have never seen it. We finished it and I looked over at him and I go, I can honestly say my life would have been better if I never watched that. Ever. My life would have gone on and said, you have taken a year off of my life by me watching this atrocious film. This is awful. I was like, you were almost not allowed to choose movies anymore. Like this did me in. First, it was A Clockwork Orange. Now this. Granted, A Clockwork Orange was like 2 years ago, but I still recall it. It was still bad. So it's
okay. Take a breath.
So many things. Flames on the side of my face. Anyways. You need to watch Clue. I
do.
I can't believe you've not watched Clue.
Yeah, I just haven't, but I need to. I do.
I can't believe it.
I do recognize that I need to.
Yes, you do. Tim Curry. Anyways, so
I do love Tim Curry.
Funny. Which it's funny that 2 of the cult classic movies involve Tim Curry because Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Mm-hmm.
So we are discussing the dark side of the definition of cult, and more specifically, what are considered NRMs, or new religious movements. These are typically offshoots of a religious community that share, this is kind of my easiest way. Some of the descriptions weren't really like great. And this is the best way that I can, and you tell me, like, this is kind of how I think of it. It's an offshoot of a religious community that share enough mainstream beliefs to draw people in, but then take like a sharp right turn off the deep end.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get far enough into it that you're like, oh, this makes it, like Scientology, which cult. Come after me. I don't care. You're a cult. I'll find Leah Remini. We can be best friends. That bring you in because they want to do good for the world. And like it initially starts as we want to do great things for the world. Like we want to be the people that do great things. Like that's what the People's Temple was. That's Jonestown is the People's Temple. So like that's what Jonestown, like that whole thing originally started as. But then it pulls you in just enough to then go, oh, here's this 1,000-year contract we need you to sign. And you're like, wait, what?
Whoa.
But then you're already so far into it that you're like, well, this isn't so weird. Like it pulls you in just enough to where you're like, well, this isn't so weird. But then the weird stuff just keeps coming. But they do it in a way that makes you think, I'm on board with this.
Yeah.
And then keep pulling.
Look at all of this. So it's just one little thing.
Yeah. So they take your kids away from you when they're 11 and throw them on a boat. I mean, she was kind of bothering me anyways, right?
I mean, that's when they really get mouthy, so.
But like that was the easiest way that I could think of to describe it. It's like it's like one of those things where like one of these things is not like the other. Like find the differences in the photos. And then the differences just are coming out more and more.
And it was enough to get your attention and make you comfortable and bring you in. And then once you're comfortable, little things. Little thing here and there.
It's very interesting, but sociologist Max Weber was the first scholar to study cults, but it wasn't until 1932 that the concept of a cult as a social classification was introduced by American sociologist Howard P. Becker. The line between religious group and cult can be a little too close for some, which is why, and I said this, this is kind of why there is this, we can't pinpoint the first cult because the line blurs too close for comfort. But in 2012, the first bit of evidence was discovered by archaeologists in Judah to suggest that cults have been around since the time of King David.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, we taught, I teach a Sunday school class, and we taught about when they made the golden calves. Mm-hmm. And when they made, they were making different stone idols and wooden idols. So, I mean, that is a cult.
So the findings that they found included shrines and have led to further studies that there were possibly different Canaanite or Philistine cults. Through the years, cults have branched off into different subsets. All of these cults have different subsets, which include destructive cults, doomsday cults, political, polygamist, racist, and terrorist cults, all of which have some religious undertone to them and ideas that support their often radical beliefs. So a lot of times what they'll do, which I have put the soapbox away, I will not step on it right now, but how some people will take specific portions of religious text and just exclude all the rest. Taking something way out of context and saying
it fit their name.
This. And that's how a lot of these things occur.
You're right. You're very right.
I mean, Baptists do it, Catholics do it. I mean, everybody, there's all different things that people, Presbyterians, they all choose specific things.
People, period.
That
do it.
They're going to choose. And a lot of these cults that have these major overtones of polygamy or racism or terrorism or that the end of the world is immense and it's coming now and all those things. They all do that where they take certain beliefs to pull you in and then it's a doomsday cult. Or then there's a political undertone to it. Or there's all these different things. They're oh, here's all these things. Oh, but then polygamy. And we're going to marry 12-year-olds. That's what they always do is they pull you in and change rules just enough to then have the major things that happen. And the one we're diving into today is one that many have never heard of. The Wakemanites.
Wakemanites?
Yes.
Okay.
Rhoda Sly was 24 in 1800 when she married an emotionally and physically abusive distiller named Ira Wakeman. The couple settled in Greenfield, Connecticut, and altogether ended up having either 15 or 16 children, depending on the source you look at.
Ooh.
Way too many. But regardless, only 9 of the children survived. I couldn't find why only 9 of them survived, but that was what I found. By 1825, the couple's relationship was at its lowest point. Ira began threatening to kill Rhoda on almost a nightly basis, and to reinforce those threats, he began carrying a sharpened razor with him to bed each night. The threats continued for 7 years, and at times he also threatened to end his own life because allegedly, which is a word we are going to use a lot this episode, because allegedly the devil told him to. One night, Ira claimed to have made what he believed was a profitable deal with hell to protect his soul from eternal damnation after killing his wife. Ira sat down next to Rhoda, threatened her with the razor, cursed her, and proceeded to pull a fiery brand from the fireplace and stab her in the heart.
Oh.
Talk about heartburn.
Oh, you did not.
It'll come back too, so keep that in up there in your noodle. According to Rhoda, this is when she died immediately. Spoiler, since we are getting this story from Rhoda, she obviously doesn't die.
I was going to say, according to Rhoda, this is when she died.
Rhoda was allegedly greeted by Jesus Christ and a group of angels in heaven. Rhoda remained dead for 7 hours. During that time, Rhoda claims to have been given orders from God to deliver the good news, and he even gave her the gift of prophecy to help her mission. Then 2 sword-wielding angels warned Rhoda that the Antichrist and its followers would do everything they could to kill her. And last but certainly not least, Rhoda simply living in the world was directly linked to the existence of the world. And if Rhoda died again, the world would disappear. And Rhoda still lives today. We have a website where you can find out.
Nice.
Rhoda woke up and began immediately recruiting followers to join her in her mission. Also, when Rhoda came back from her experience, we'll call it, she came to the realization that her husband, Ira, was possessed by a daemon. Or demon, as some like to call it. And this is the same demon that Rhoda believed followed her around for the next 20 years. But what happened to Ira? He died in 1833 under mysterious circumstances. This is when Rhoda moved to New Haven, Connecticut, and was known locally as Widow Wakeman. She told everyone about her encounters with ethereal beings, and then she and her brother, Samuel Sly, known as Uncle Sammy or Elder Sly, which I don't like either one of those, began supporting themselves. But like, I can just hear them go, "Oh, you want to sit on Uncle Sammy's lap?" Look, can't. No. Either way. They began supporting themselves by selling potions and elixirs with alleged magical powers from a stall outside a local cemetery. They started
outside a local cemetery.
I mean,
oh,
yeah. Where else? They started to draw more people into their circle, having meetings at her brother's, and formed the Wakemanites, which I find it very interesting that her last name ended up being Wakeman, like wake man, awake man, and she re-awoke from death. Interesting. There were never more than around a dozen followers at any given time.
Where were her children?
You'll see.
Okay.
But they were devout followers of Rhoda. Upon Ira's death, the demon allegedly entered Rhoda's son-in-law, Eben Gould, and one the Illuminati thing said, I mean, Eben Gould, if a demon was going to possess anybody. What a name. There were never any attempts on her life made by Gould, even though he was mercilessly provoked by members of the group for years to get him to lash out. In 1855, the supposed evil spirit moved to a member of the Wakemanites' inner circle, a man named Amos Hunt.
Why did they provoke him?
Because they were trying to prove that he was possessed.
Why?
That's a good question. I mean, that's great.
Why poke the bear?
That's great question. I don't know.
Okay, continue.
I guess to like prove it. I don't know. Yeah. After this, Amos was determined to prove that Rhoda's claims of immortality was a lie by poisoning her. Not a great look when you're trying to convince someone you aren't possessed by something and that you aren't trying to kill someone by trying to kill them. But yet, Amos gave Rhoda a cake laced with arsenic. But all it did was give Rhoda a serious case of heartburn. Further proving to the group that she was a prophet and a messenger of God. Of course, something as elementary as arsenic could never have hurt Rhoda, according to her. The cake had been prepared with witchcraft, using, quote, the brains of a man, the oil of men's bones. Didn't know bones at all. Okay. The eyes of dogs, the brains of cats, the hearts of dogs, the eyes of roosters, garden basil, topaz stone, copper, platinum, and entrails of common toads. Just common ones. Common toads.
I mean, that must have been the nastiest cake. Very moist. But nasty.
Entrails of a common toad. Just common toad.
Common toad. Well,
garden basil. Just garden basil.
No top hat, so you must be common.
Commoner. Peasant toad, as we like to call them. Jeez. Just like our last episode. They're like, this is a toad, but he has a hat. We found the hat.
This is a bougie toad. It's not a common toad.
He can't. He must tap dance later. Hello, my lady. Hello.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So much for that.
Hello, a ragtop cow. With his little, like he's got not only his top hat, but his little cane and his tap shoes.
What's with you?
He's going.
His spats.
That's what he's got to get it. He's got to get it.
Oh, good times.
And then, the other toad was like,
why did I not dress up today?
Billy stole my tap shoes. I'm now just a common toad. So the Wakemanites shunned Amos Hunt, and Uncle Sammy Sly demanded restitution in the form of $500. But the evil spirit allegedly just moved to Justus Mathews. The change in Justus was immediately able to be seen, and when he arrived back home, his wife went into convulsions. This is seeming very witch trials to me. But that's just me. When he went back to Elder Sly's to attend the typical service, Rhoda became ill. Her hand started shaking, and she pointed to Justus Mathews, declaring that the demon who tried to end her life once had come back to do it again, and this time the world would end with it. Justus was scared and asked the group to remove the evil spirit from his body. The inner circle of the group agreed, but they warned him that the exorcism would have to be performed at Elder Sly's home.
And he wouldn't survive it.
No, they just told him it was an exorcism.
Oh, okay.
The Wakemanites understood the urgency and set about to rid Justus of his evil spirit. One of the followers, Polly Sanford, not Polly Purrington, the cat that we don't have yet. That's what I'll name her. My new black cat that Leah just made me.
Oh,
that's Polly Purrington now. We had to have a Polly Purrington. Polly Sanford was actually Justus Mathews' sister, and she went with her husband, Almiron Sanford, to discuss the matter with Justus and convince him to come to the meeting on December 23rd.
Very close to Christmas.
It was, of course, a full moon, and the group had been there praying since 2 p.m. that day. Justice arrived right after 9 p.m., where his sister Polly tied a handkerchief over his eyes to, quote, diminish the power of the spirit and prevent him from enchanting anyone with his eyes. He was then bound, gagged, and beaten mercilessly with an enchanted witch hazel club, stabbed and slashed across the throat with a pocket knife by Elder Sly to attempt and drive the demon out. Instead of an exorcism, Justus Mathews was mercilessly murdered. And whether it was accurate or not, according to the members of the group, he expressed his willingness to die for the cause. According to them. Allegedly. Another member of the group, Charles Sanford, Charles Sanford, there's a whole other story that ties to this as well, apparently. Charles Sanford was Polly Sanford and Almiron Sanford's son. So Justus's sister's son, so his nephew, right? Allegedly, Charles became so unhinged by the murder that he went on to kill 2 more members of the surrounding community just a few days later with an axe.
Oh, so he was present for the exorcism.
Yes.
How old was he?
I don't know.
Okay.
When Justus didn't arrive back at home that night, his son went to Elder Sly's house to look for him. No one answered the door, and the son broke the door open and found his father lying on the floor with pools of blood surrounding his head. Sorry, guys. I gotta describe some things here, so if you want to skip forward, do it now. His throat had been cut from ear to ear and his head nearly severed from his body. A small rope was found on the floor, and marks on his wrist showed that he had been bound and his abdomen was covered with puncture wounds as if he had been stabbed with a table fork. Later that day, a coroner's jury was convened, and many of those at the meeting gave evidence. They testified to the belief that if Rhoda Wakeman died, the world would come to an end. They believed that Justus Mathews had killed himself to be rid of the evil spirit. Several Wakemanites were arrested and charged with either committing or being an accessory to the crime. The ones that were arrested were Israel Wooding, Almiron and Polly Sanford, Abigail Sables, Thankful Hearsey, that is a name, Widow Rhoda Wakeman, Samuel Sly, and Josiah Jackson.
Can we pause for a moment?
How did he kill himself? By stabbing himself in the stomach with a fork and then almost beheading himself? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, stabbing yourself in the stomach, that's possible.
It's possible.
But
the rest of it, no.
The head thing and the bound arms.
Bound at the wrist, but did all those. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I was just making sure that you heard the same things that I heard, and I wasn't just like making stuff up in my head. Okay, continue.
Samuel Sly confessed to the murder just a few days later. He said that his sister had been so distressed by the bad spirits in Justus Mathews that he knew something must be done to remove it. That April 1856, Samuel Sly, Rhoda Wakeman, and Thankful Hearsey were tried for the murder of Justus W. Mathews. None of the Wakemanites who testified wavered in their belief that Justus had been possessed by an evil spirit and had to die to save the world. The verdict was not guilty on the ground of insanity, and the defendants were all sent to the insane retreat in Hartford, Connecticut. And that is the Wakemanite murder from the Wakemanite cult.
Wow.
I know. I saw the title of it, and I've had it on the list as like the one to cover for this year. And as I was looking through it, I was like, okay. I was like reading, and I couldn't find a lot of information on it. There just wasn't a lot out there. And then I found the other article, and it was called "You Only Live Twice." So now you get why it's called that. But yeah, she truly believed after 7 hours, which I mean, okay, fine. If that's what you believe, fine. But it's so Salem witch trial-y.
Yes.
And this which not saying that it's not possible, but this demon's hopping from one person to another. And just as soon as you get onto one and you shun them, it just hops to somebody else. Like what? And then you convince one of your followers, you convince the follower that he is now possessed. Yeah. And he's like, well, yes, I want an exorcism. But then allegedly you tell him, oh, we actually have to kill you. And you say that he said it was okay.
I mean, wow.
Interesting.
And his sister was on board with this?
She's the one that brought him there. And then his nephew goes on to kill 2 other people in the community with an axe.
That mob mentality is scary.
People who are a little unhinged already. Then they get pulled into this group. Mm-hmm. And I mean, even after they went through all of this, I mean, still in trial, the followers of the group were like, no, he was possessed by a demon and we had to get rid of him.
Wow.
I mean, insanity at its finest. It is truly crazy.
Just amazes me.
And so that is our first cult that we've discussed so far. First, but not the last.
Wow.
Trust me. I find cults fascinating.
The leaders are masterminds. I mean, they're very interesting people.
And a woman so unassuming. The poor woman was beat by her husband. You know, like there's so many different things that compound on top of each other to make your story, you know, which, yes, if you were abused and beat, that is absolutely terrible.
Absolutely.
But you're using that as part of your story to convince people that if you die, the end of the world is coming.
Yeah.
The world will immediately end when you die.
Yeah. I don't.
Which is why I was like, and she still lives today. Because clearly.
Well, and I mean, you know,
she's a witch.
If she is truly a believer, you know, which, you know, it came from Christianity.
Some part of it has to be.
Yeah. Because she said she met Jesus,
mm-hmm.
you know.
And then God gave her orders and gave her the gift of prophecy, which if he gave you the gift of prophecy, would you not be able to prophesy where the demon was going next?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
But we know that Jesus comes back. So.
And there's Lazarus and there's like.
But I mean, what I'm saying is.
So now you are God.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, it's in the Bible that. You know,
it's very
so if
weird.
You're saying that it's linked
and like,
with Christianity, then
I want to see the scar first of all.
Yeah,
there's got to be one.
Can you show me where the poker was?
Second, you can't convince me she didn't just have a bad bout of heartburn and that put her down for 7 hours.
Or maybe he did poke her with an iron, but it didn't poke through her heart. You know, I mean, maybe he really did poke her with it, but you know, the wound wasn't exactly as she described it.
It's very fantastical.
Yes.
And it's very...
And it's enough to drive someone insane. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's not... There's a lot.
Yeah.
So, but they ended up spending the rest of their days in an insane retreat is what it was called.
When you said retreat, I was like, a what? Retreat? Is that like a spa? Like, did they get to paint every day? Is that what we're doing? We're wearing smocks and just, you know.
Never know.
I'd like to go to a retreat.
I mean, I would too. Trust me. I mean, I don't want a grip sock vacation necessarily. I don't know. Some days it could be good.
Some days.
But so yeah,
I mean, could I watch TV?
I don't know. I don't know if you can watch TV. Probably in a group, which I wouldn't like because I don't want to.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, if they'd let me just watch Friends.
I don't know. Just turn on Ghostober. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I swear. That's what I'm about to go do. So, you know.
You do you, boo-boo.
I will. So that is it. If you would like to join our cult, you can. It's onenationundercrime.com. And if you would like to solidify your devotion to our cult, you can go to patreon.com/onenationundercrime and you can join the cult there just for a small flat fee each month, a fee of your choosing.
You
so
get to
really,
yes.
This is up to you.
And we will give you a prize.
You can determine your devotion, per se, to us. So you can pledge your devotion to the animals over here.
If you pledge the devotion in the form of a 5-star Google review.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good. That one's one that lives forever.
Yes, you will get a symbol of our undying love sent to you
to wear proudly.
Display proudly. In a location of your choice
as a member. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
exactly. So you can do that as well. 5 stars only. We only accept 5 stars.
Yep.
That's how you make your way in.
That's right.
You make
top
your way
tier.
In.
Top tier.
You know, it's how it happens. But
you unlock all the secrets.
All of it. We'll tell you all of our deep dark secrets. The ones we haven't already told you, apparently.
There are not many left, friends.
Really. So we appreciate you guys for joining our cult and listening to this week's episode of One Nation Under Crime. We will see you here same time,
different crime
next week. And remember, there isn't always liberty and justice for all unless you join our cult.
Exactly. I mean, but apparently some cults you get to have a retreat for the rest of your life.
A retreat. We can start an ONUC retreat. Goodbye.
Bye.